Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast series. And a topic that has become increasingly topical in this day and age is whether geography still matters as far as connectivity is concerned. As businesses, we seem to have got spread our wings a lot further. Networking used to be about geographical location. Many well-known networking groups simply based on catching up for a breakfast or an afternoon coffee because you are physically co-located. But we live in a very changing world where that's no longer the case. So does it matter? Doesn't it matter? And I open it up for some interesting discussion this morning because I know personally my business has completely transformed since there's been more people online and willing to network online. Yuriy, I know you've got some strong opinions on this one.
Well, yes, as I mentioned before, it's a double-edged sword, even with more connectivity in more physical or virtual way, we tend to become more disconnected in a personal way, I think. And to me, having family living overseas, I can see the benefits of these connectivity tools when you have the big distance apart, but with the people next to you living around the corner, we get more and more disconnected because we start, instead of real life connections, we start to shift to the virtual connectivity as well. In terms of business, I haven't, for example, experienced the big shift because before COVID, I was working remotely. And the only difference is it only forced me to switch the workshop from live to online just to adapt, but I still prefer to talk to real people. And once we get out from this situation, I would prefer to fly even across Australia to meet people rather than do it online. Eyal?
Yeah, I agree, and I experienced the same. And from my personal experience, 12 months ago, the shift was hard for me personally to switch from face to face. I'm more face to face and like to meet people and have a coffee or even meet in the office. But the change to a virtual meeting, at the beginning, it was a bit difficult for me, but then it took me a couple of months to get used to it. And it changed the way I work. As Yuri said, I used to fly to meetings in Sydney, in Adelaide, in Melbourne. And these days I don't have to. I just do the meeting online. And it saves a lot of time, money, of course, and makes everything more efficient. But we're losing the personal connection, which I miss.
Actually, back to networking topic, what I found one of the benefits when you used to have random coffee meetings and quite a lot of them to meet people when it's not a group organized networking. Now it really saves time because before COVID, people were really a bit reluctant to have a video call or phone call just for initial catch up to see whether there is a connection, there is a match. And now it saves lots of time on driving and staying in traffic and looking for parking. So you have a virtual coffee first, and then you decide whether it's worth to meet in person.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the transformation has been that, being able to network with people around the world has opened up a lot more. That I think has, gained enormous traction, and a lot of our businesses, aren't necessarily restricted to geography in terms of the product or service that we offer. So, I think the big transformation has certainly come in terms of people accepting various networking, online tools, Zoom and all of these kinds of other ones to be, justifiable for actual conversations. And I think that has been the big transformation. And it is that balance though, between wanting to have that physical connection is very different to a one on Zoom. but you actually have to put a little bit more effort into some of that networking to make it happen and to make it work for your business. Pierre?
Yeah, no. Look, Anthony, I think you raise a very valid point. The fact that Zoom or the internet has given all of us that ability to kind of meet up with people who are not necessarily geographically close to us. It's made a huge difference. I think your ability to learn from other people and talk to people and learn from their experience, and that's a worldwide phenomenon, has been incredibly kind of useful for a lot of people. I think this, like you say, the service delivery as well, that's been a real plus. In terms of getting not just local people, but getting people on a quite a different base. It's been really incredible from that point of view. For me, the Zoom meetings have been a really good as a starting point to get to know people and get to kind of contact with them. And what it's done is it's kind of made the time that you have that physical actual meeting, it's made it a lot more productive because you already on a certain level know the people and understand them. So when you do, like you said, you get together for a coffee and it's, it takes a while to get to know people and you there's a lot of time spent just chit-chatting and those kind of things. A lot of that is done now, I think, with Zoom, and therefore when you do get together, the meetings themselves are more productive and you can actually get a lot better results from that. Is that what you've found, Eyal?
Yes, I agree. But on the other hand, I think the quality of that kind of relationship is different. So it's kind of virtual relationship rather than a personal. So there is aspects of personal relationship, even though it's virtual. But personally, I feel that the quality is less than the face-to-face in-person meetings. Anthony?
Yeah, I think the key is the effort that you have to put in is perhaps a little bit more. I think, where in the past, particularly if you're having a business meeting, you would turn up to the meeting, with a minute or two to spare. You would get in, and often there'd be a tight agenda, and you would go through that meeting, and then you walk out of that meeting. And that physical co-location sometimes was often seen as a compensation for actually building a relationship. What I've found is that more and more when you're using networking, internet networking kind of tools, that you have to put in a little bit more effort to get to know people. I've actually stopped people at who want to just get straight into the agenda and thrown them a couple of questions to get to know them a little bit better, or to, break that humanity ice, if you like, so that you're not just talking to some nobody on the other end of the screen. You're actually sharing something about one another. And I think but what's really amazing to me is that I think ultimately the value of all of this online networking and people being isolated and all of that kind of stuff ultimately is going to lead to a much stronger drive towards the value of local communities, not necessarily in a business sense, but certainly in a social sense, that people will value community, the true idea of a community. But I think in terms of, if we go back to the networking, it's that ability to open up your client base is huge, because I certainly believe that, if I look back 2 or 3 years, the idea of me grabbing not only international, but even interstate clients was extremely difficult unless I was prepared to travel there. So now, that's not even an issue. I can have a conversation with anyone, anywhere in the world, and it doesn't, so long as we can work out the time zone, there's not an issue as to whether you can deliver that service or not. And I think that's it's a mindset shift. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Anthony. And these days I'm working with clients in Adelaide and in Melbourne that I don't think that I have worked with them if it wasn't for the virtual remote working facilities.
I think just from a marketing point of view, that has what shifted as well, is that I've noticed less of a, unless you're delivering a very specific service, you're an electrician or a plumber or something where, obviously you can't deliver that from one state to another too easily, particularly if you can't travel that much. But in terms of, other general products and services, there's been less about geography. And I think from a marketing perspective, people are talking more and more in broader terms and opening that up. And for clients as well, it allows a much greater selection. So I think that, whilst there are definite negatives, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that really just want that physical co-location for meetings and work, there's plenty of opportunities to find that balance. And I think I'm sure that going into the future, there is going to be a pretty fair balance between the two, and less reliance on physical co-location for sustained periods. And I think that's going to be the difference that will move us forward. So, Yuriy, just before we wrap up.
That was interesting, actually, to see the shift, what you just said, the mindset shift. Especially, I've seen so many clients who were really before COVID, they were really against the remote work model, or letting people just to work maybe occasionally remotely. And then when they were forced to switch to remote model, and they probably will be the last to get back to offices.
Yeah. So look, just to wrap things up, my advice to everyone is that make sure you're set up to do it properly, though. That's the critical bit, is that if you're going to, whether it's networking, whether it's doing business, you still have to set yourself up in the same way you would if you were attending a meeting. That's what people can't lose sight of. If you were physically attending a meeting, you'd dress appropriately, you'd carry your computer or whatever bits and pieces that you need to make sure that stuff is at your fingertips to have an informed conversation. So you need to present and be prepared, whether it's a networking situation or whether it's doing business. And that's the trick. It's part of a mindset as well in moving that forward. So thank you for the person who sent that enlightening question in. We're all doing a little bit of this networking right now. So, and that's the great thing. Here we are. We talk about it, but all of us are not physically co-located in the same area. So, which is makes this a lot more interesting and a lot more.
At the moment, we're all isolated from each other.
Yep, absolutely. We get the quarantine spray now. Look, thank you everyone for joining us, and please keep sending in your interesting questions. We love having a discussion about these different topics, and bringing in our interesting perspectives, and we hope to continue doing this for a long time into the future. So we look forward to your questions, and we look forward to having you join us next time.